The Meridian Gallery had only been open for 3 months, but it had already become the most prestigious art venue in the city. Its soaring glass walls, minimalist white interiors, and carefully curated exhibitions attracted collectors from around the world. The ground floor café, where we sat for Mom's anniversary lunch, offered views of the main exhibition space, currently featuring an impressive collection of contemporary abstract works. "This place is stunning," my sister Caroline said, admiring the high ceilings. "I'm so glad they opened it. Finally, somewhere sophisticated to eat downtown." My mother beamed. She loved places like this, elegant, cultured, exclusive. For her 45th wedding anniversary, Caroline had organized this lunch at the Gallery Café, inviting the whole family to celebrate. "The art is incredible," my younger sister Jessica added, gesturing toward a large canvas visible through the glass partition. "I read that some of these pieces are worth millions." "Everything here is museum quality," Caroline confirmed. She worked in marketing and loved to demonstrate her cultural knowledge. "The gallery only shows investment-grade art. Nothing cheap or commercial." I sipped my sparkling water and said nothing. The Kandinsky they were admiring was actually worth $8.3 million. I knew because I'd purchased it at auction in London 6 months ago. "Now," Caroline said, pulling out her phone, "let's talk about Mom and Dad's gift. I've been researching and I found the perfect thing. A 2-week Mediterranean cruise. All-inclusive, luxury suite, fine dining. It's $35,000 total." Mom gasped. "Caroline, that's too much." "Not if we all contribute," Caroline said firmly. "There are 6 of us. You two, Jessica and her husband Mark, brother David and his wife Lauren, and me and Tom. If we each pitch in, it's only about $5,800 per couple." "That's very generous," Dad said, looking touched. "You don't have to." "We want to," Jessica interrupted. "You two have done so much for us. You deserve something special." Caroline was typing on her phone. "Okay, so Tom and I will cover our share. Jessica and Mark." "We're in," Jessica confirmed immediately. "David and Lauren?" My brother David nodded from across the table. "Absolutely. Just send us the payment details." Caroline's eyes finally landed on me, sitting at the end of the table, wearing my usual jeans and a simple blouse. And, well, we should probably discuss Natalie's situation. The table went quiet. "What situation?" I asked calmly. Caroline's expression became sympathetic, almost pitying. "Honey, we all know you're struggling right now. The art teaching thing isn't exactly lucrative." "I don't teach art," I corrected quietly. "Whatever it is you do," she waved her hand dismissively. "The point is, we don't want you to feel pressured. If you can't afford to contribute, that's okay. We understand." "She can't contribute to Mom's gift," Caroline announced louder, as if I wasn't sitting right there. "She barely makes rent." Everyone nodded sympathetically. My family had decided years ago that I was the struggling artist, the one who needed help, the one who'd chosen passion over practicality. "Maybe next year, honey," Dad said gently. "When you're more stable financially." I took another sip of water and watched a couple examining one of my Rothkos through the glass wall. They were pointing excitedly, probably reading the placard that explained its significance. "It's nothing to be ashamed of," Jessica added. "Not everyone can afford luxury gifts. You contribute in other ways, like that nice card you made for their 40th anniversary. That was sweet." "Very creative," Lauren agreed, though her tone suggested creativity wasn't particularly valuable. Caroline pulled up a spreadsheet on her phone. "So that's $35,000 divided by 5 couples instead of 6. About $7,000 each. Still very reasonable for what Mom and Dad are getting." "Where does Natalie even live now?" Jessica asked suddenly. "Is it still that studio apartment in the Arts District?" "I think so," Caroline said. "Near all those galleries and coffee shops. Probably not the safest neighborhood." "It's perfectly safe," I said. "For an arts district maybe," David chuckled. "But you should really consider moving somewhere more professional. Maybe get a regular job with benefits. This art thing has been going on for 12 years now? At some point you have to be realistic." Mom reached over and patted my hand. "We just worry about you, sweetie. You're 36 years old. Don't you want stability? Security?" "I have both," I said. "In what sense?" Caroline asked, her tone making it clear she thought I was delusional. Natalie, you don't own anything. You rent a tiny apartment. You drive a 10-year-old Subaru. You wear the same clothes from 5 years ago. That's not stability. Different people define stability differently, I replied. Sure, but objectively speaking, David began. He was interrupted by movement near our table. Marcus Webb, the gallery director, was walking toward us with purposeful strides. He was impeccably dressed in a tailored navy suit, his silver hair styled perfectly. I'd hired him 8 months ago specifically because of his reputation for discretion and excellence. Good afternoon, he said, his voice cultured and professional. Then his eyes found mine and his entire demeanor shifted. He straightened even more if that was possible and gave a small, respectful bow. Miss Blake, I apologize for interrupting your family lunch. The table went silent. It's fine, Marcus, I said. What do you need? Your private collection has been installed in the West Wing as requested. The conservation team finished the climate control calibration this morning. Everything is ready for your viewing. He paused, glancing at my family. I can return later if this is inconvenient. The West Wing, Caroline said faintly. Marcus looked at her briefly, then back to me. Yes, ma'am. The private gallery's on the 3rd floor. Your acquisitions from the Paris auction arrived yesterday, and I thought you'd want to inspect them personally before we finalize the insurance documentation. Paris auction? Jessica whispered. Also, Marcus continued, the curator from the Modern Art Museum called again about borrowing 3 pieces from your collection for their winter exhibition. Specifically, the Basquiat, the Warhol, and the early Hockney. I told them I'd need your approval first. Mom's water glass trembled in her hand. And finally, Marcus said, pulling out his tablet, the city council confirmed the dedication ceremony for the new public sculpture garden. They're very excited about your $12 million donation. The mayor will be attending personally to thank you. $12 million, David said, his voice barely audible. Marcus finally seemed to notice the stunned expressions around the table. I apologize. Am I interrupting a private family matter? No, I said calmly. Marcus, this is my family. Everyone, this is Marcus Webb, the director of the Meridian Gallery. Director, Caroline repeated weakly. A pleasure to meet you all, Marcus said with professional warmth. Miss Blake speaks of you often. She's very proud of her family. Miss Blake, Lauren said slowly. Why is he calling you Miss Blake? Marcus looked confused by the question. Because that's her name. Ms. Natalie Blake, founder and primary benefactor of the Meridian Gallery. The silence that followed was absolute. A waiter approached nervously. Excuse me, Mr. Webb, but there's a situation in the main gallery. A collector is asking about the Calder Mobile and I wasn't sure. Tell them it's not for sale, I said before Marcus could respond. That piece is part of the permanent collection. The waiter blinked at me, then at Marcus. Miss Blake is correct, Marcus confirmed. The Calder stays. Offer to show them the Stella pieces in Gallery 2. Those are available for purchase. Yes, Mr. Webb. Yes, Miss Blake. The waiter hurried off. Jessica found her voice first. You own this gallery? I founded it, I confirmed. The building, the gallery, the collection, all mine. But your... Caroline couldn't finish the sentence. Poor, I supplied. Struggling, barely making rent. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Miss Blake is one of the most significant art collectors and philanthropists in the region. Her personal collection is valued at approximately $47 million. The gallery building itself is worth another $23 million. She also owns 4 other commercial properties downtown. For other properties, David repeated numbly. The gallery was her passion project, Marcus continued, clearly not understanding why this was news to my family. She wanted to create a space where art was accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy. That's why admission is free, and why we do extensive educational programming for schools. Free admission, Mom whispered. You run this whole place for free? The café and event rentals cover operational costs, I explained. The gallery itself is non-profit. I endowed it with $15 million to ensure it can operate in perpetuity. Caroline was scrolling frantically on her phone. There's an article here. From the Arts Journal. It says, It says the mysterious collector who founded the Meridian Gallery wished to remain anonymous. That's you. You're the mysterious collector. I prefer privacy, I said. Privacy. Jessica's voice rose. Natalie, you let us think you were broke. You let us talk about you like you were some kind of charity case. You assumed, I corrected gently. I never said I was broke. You decided that based on my car and my apartment and my clothes. You never asked what I actually did. You said you worked in art, David protested. I do work in art. I acquire it, preserve it, and share it with the public. That's my work. Marcus checked his tablet. Speaking of which, Ms. Blake, the Sotheby's representative, confirmed your telephone bid for the Monet. Congratulations, you won it $6.8 million. They'll arrange shipping within the month. $6.8 million, Caroline said, her voice hollow. For one painting. It's a water lilies study from 1919, I said. Extremely rare. The gallery's Impressionist collection needed a Monet to be complete. Mom was crying now, quiet tears running down her face. I don't understand. Why didn't you tell us? Would it have changed anything? I asked. Would you have suddenly respected my choices? Or would you have just wanted something from me? The question hung in the air. That's not fair, David said, but he couldn't meet my eyes. Isn't it? Think about every family gathering for the past 12 years. Every holiday, every birthday, every anniversary. How many times did someone suggest I get a real job? How many times was I pitted for my little art thing? How many times was I the example of what not to do with your life? Caroline's face flushed. We were worried about you. No, you were embarrassed by me, I corrected. There's a difference. You were embarrassed that your sister drove an old car and wore cheap clothes and lived in the arts district. You wanted me to be more like you. Corporate job, expensive house, luxury brands. The fact that I chose differently threatened your definition of success. Chose, Jessica said bitterly. You make it sound like we had any idea you were choosing this. We thought you couldn't afford anything better. And that's the point, I said quietly. You saw someone living modestly and assumed failure. It never occurred to any of you that I might be living exactly how I wanted to live. Marcus cleared his throat delicately. Miss Blake, should I give you some privacy? I can return later about the Paris acquisitions. No, stay, I said. Actually, would you mind explaining to my family what exactly I do here? He looked surprised but nodded. Of course. Miss Blake is what we call a patron collector. She acquires significant works of art, primarily post-war contemporary and modern pieces, with the intention of eventually donating them to museums and public institutions. She spent the last 12 years building one of the finest private collections in the country. How fine? Dad asked quietly. If she were to liquidate her entire collection today, it would fetch approximately $47 million at auction. But Miss Blake doesn't acquire art as an investment. She acquires it because she loves it and wants to preserve it for future generations. Every piece in this gallery will eventually be donated to public museums. Her collection will educate and inspire people for centuries. 47 million, Caroline whispered. That's just the art, Marcus added. Her real estate holdings, this building plus 4 others downtown, are worth another $38 million collectively. She also has various investment accounts and trusts, but those aren't my area of expertise. How do you know all this? Jessica demanded. Because I manage her collection, Marcus said simply. That's my job. Ms. Blake hired me as the gallery director, but I also oversee the documentation, conservation, and exhibition of her personal holdings. It's a full-time position. You pay him, Lauren said to me. You pay him to manage your art collection. I pay him very well, I confirmed. Marcus is one of the best in the field. He left a position at a major New York museum to work here. Marcus smiled. Best decision I ever made. Ms. Blake is a dream client, knowledgeable, decisive, and genuinely passionate about art. Plus, she gave me complete freedom to design this gallery from the ground up. Every director's fantasy. A well-dressed couple approached our table, the woman I'd noticed earlier admiring the Rothko. Excuse me, the woman said hesitantly. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but are you Natalie Blake? I nodded. Oh my God, she clutched her husband's arm. We just moved here from Boston. We heard rumors that you lived in the city, but we didn't know for sure. Your collection is legendary. The Basquiat you loaned to the Whitney last year, I must have spent an hour in front of it. Incredible. Thank you, I said. Are you enjoying the gallery? It's magnificent. The fact that you made it free to the public. That's extraordinary. Art should be accessible to everyone. She pulled out her phone. Would you mind if we took a photo? My friends in Boston won't believe I met you. After they left, the table sat in stunned silence. People know who you are, Jessica said. In the art world you're famous? Not famous, I corrected. Known. There's a difference. I've kept a low profile intentionally, but yes, collectors and curators know my name. The couple who just asked for your photo, Marcus added, they're serious collectors themselves. They have a Picasso and two Moreaus. The fact that they were starstruck meeting Ms. Blake tells you something about her reputation. Caroline's hands were shaking. I tried to exclude you from the anniversary gift because I thought you were too poor to contribute. You did, I agreed. But you could buy them a Mediterranean cruise without blinking. You could buy them the entire cruise ship. I could, I confirmed. But that's not what they need. What does that mean? Mom asked, her voice thick with tears. I reached into my bag and pulled out an envelope, placing it on the table. This is my gift to you. For your 45th anniversary. Dad opened it with trembling hands. Inside were 2 plane tickets, a hotel confirmation and a letter. Paris, he read aloud. First-class tickets to Paris. A week at the Ritz. And... his voice broke. A private tour of the Musée d'Orsay. Oh my God. Mom has always wanted to see the Impressionists in Paris, I said. She's been talking about it since I was a child. So I arranged a private tour, just you two and a curator. You'll see Monet, Renoir, Degas, all of them. Plus, I've arranged for you to meet the director of the museum. He's a friend. A friend, Mom repeated weakly. We've worked together on several acquisitions over the years. He's excited to meet you. I smiled at my mother. You used to take me to art museums when I was little. You'd make up stories about the paintings, try to help me understand them. You gave me my love of art, Mom. This is my way of saying thank you. She was sobbing now, clutching the tickets to her chest. The Mediterranean cruise would have been nice, I continued. But this is personal. This is about your dreams, not about what looks impressive. Caroline wiped her eyes. How much did this cost? Does it matter? I asked gently. We were all planning to spend $7,000 each for a cruise. And you? Spent significantly more on plane tickets, hotel and museum access, Marcus supplied helpfully. First class to Paris isn't cheap. Neither is a week at the Ritz. And private museum tours are quite expensive, especially at that level. Why didn't you tell us? David asked. All these years, why keep it secret? Because I needed to know that I could do this, I said honestly. I needed to prove to myself that I could build something meaningful without family money, without family connections, without family approval. I needed to know that my choices were valid even if no one else understood them. But we could have supported you, Jessica protested. We could have been proud of you. Could you? I challenged. Really? Think about it. If I told you 12 years ago that I was dropping out of grad school to become an art collector, what would you have said? If I told you I was spending my savings on paintings instead of a house, would you have supported that? Or would you have told me I was making a terrible mistake? The silence was damning. That's what I thought, I said quietly. You would have tried to stop me. You would have convinced me to be practical, to get a stable job, to save for retirement. You would have meant well, but you would have killed my dream before it could grow. So you let us think you'd failed, Caroline said. I let you make your own assumptions. And I learned a lot from that. I learned who asked me about my life versus who lectured me about it. I learned who was curious versus who was judgmental. I learned who loved me for who I was versus who loved the idea of who they wanted me to be. Marcus's tablet buzzed. Ms. Blake, I'm sorry, but the insurance adjuster is here for the Monet evaluation. I really do need you upstairs. I stood up, leaving cash on the table for my lunch. Marcus, go ahead and get started. I'll be up in 10 minutes. After he left, I looked at my family, really looked at them. Caroline in her designer suit. Jessica with her perfect manicure. David with his expensive watch. All of them successful by conventional measures. all of them having wildly misjudged their sister. "I'm not angry," I said. "I'm really not. You did what society taught you to do. You equated visible wealth with success and modest living with failure. But I hope you'll learn from this." "Learn what?" Dad asked. "That success looks different for different people. That someone driving an old car might own a gallery. That someone living in a small apartment might have $47 million in art. That you can't measure someone's worth by their clothes or their zip code or their visible wealth." "You're right," Mom said, standing up to hug me. "You're absolutely right, and I'm so sorry. I'm so proud of you, baby. I had no idea you'd built something so beautiful. You raised me to value beauty and meaning over money," I told her. "You did that. This gallery exists because you taught me to love art. But I didn't know. You didn't need to know. You gave me the foundation. I built on it." Caroline hugged me next, crying openly. "I've been horrible to you. For years. And you were succeeding the whole time." "Different kinds of success," I corrected. "Your career matters too. Your life matters too. I'm not saying my way is better. I'm saying it's mine. That's all." "Can we see it?" Jessica asked. "Your collection? The private galleries?" I smiled. "Marcus is waiting for me to review the new acquisitions. Want to come?" They followed me to the elevator and I watched their faces as we ascended to the third floor. The private galleries were climate-controlled, beautifully lit and carefully curated. Each piece had its own space, its own moment. "My God," David breathed, staring at a massive Rothko. "This is museum quality." "It will be in a museum," I confirmed. "In about 20 years. I want to enjoy it first." We walked through 3 galleries, my family silent with awe. When we reached the conservation studio where Marcus was waiting with the insurance adjuster, Dad pulled me aside. "I failed you," he said quietly. "As a father, I should have asked more questions. Should have been more curious about your life." "You didn't fail me, Dad. You taught me to work hard and stay humble. I'm wearing both those lessons right now." He looked at my simple clothes, my lack of jewelry, my practical shoes. "You really don't care what people think, do you?" "I care what I think," I corrected. "That's enough." That evening, after the family left and the gallery closed, I stood alone in the main exhibition space. The city lights sparkled through the glass walls, illuminating the art that surrounded me. Every piece had a story, not just the artist's story but mine. The Kandinsky I'd fought for at auction. The Rothko I'd discovered in a private collection. The Basquiat I'd convinced a family to sell so it could be preserved properly. My phone buzzed with messages from my siblings, each one apologizing, each one promising to do better. But the one that made me smile was from Mom. "Your father and I looked up the Musée d'Orsay tour you arranged. We know what that cost. Thank you for being so generous with us when we were so small with you. We love you and we're learning." "Mom, asterisk." I typed back. "Asterisk, you taught me to dream big. This is me passing that gift back to you. Love you both." Asterisk. Marcus found me standing in the semi-darkness. "Good day." "Educational," I said. "For everyone involved. Your family seemed shell-shocked. They'll recover. And maybe they'll think twice before judging someone by their car next time." He chuckled. "The expression on your sister's face when I mentioned the $47 million. Priceless. I hope I didn't overstep. You were perfect." I looked at the art surrounding us. "Thank you for everything you do here, Marcus. For understanding the vision." "Thank you for creating it," he replied. "Not many people would build something this beautiful and give it away for free. Most collectors hoard their art. You share it. Art is meant to be seen," I said simply. "What's the point of having something beautiful if you keep it locked away?" After he left, I walked through the galleries one more time, remembering the girl I'd been 12 years ago, unsure, afraid, but determined. The girl who'd liquidated her grad school fund to buy her first painting. The girl who'd eaten ramen for months to save for her second. That girl had built this. Had created something that would outlast her, teach future generations, bring beauty into the world. My family finally saw me today. Really saw me. But the truth was I'd been visible all along. To myself, to my work, to the art that surrounded me with silent validation. Their recognition was nice. But it was never necessary. I'd already known my worth.